All right, welcome back. Inside of this training section, we are going to be going over the two options for you to go ahead and get your professional business email set up. Now, what's going to happen here is that this specific training section that you are in right now, we're going to go ahead and break down exactly what those two options are. And then in the next immediate training sections, there's going to be the actual options, right? Option 1 and option 2. But first you have to go through this training section to know, hey, which option are you actually going to choose? So when it comes to having a professional business email address, there is not going to be a one size fits all answer. Why? Because here's the thing, every new business owner, every single one of you who is going through this program is going to want to move at a different speed, right? So for some new business owners, they're hungry, they're ready to go, they maybe already have some clients on the side, or they're ready to go ahead and start getting clients into their business ASAP, as soon as possible, okay? And so for those people, for those new business owners, the option for them to go ahead and get set up with their professional business email is going to be different, while other business owners are more, you know what, they're in it for the learning right now. They're kind of thinking of doing this on the side, they're kind of going a lot slower, and they're taking their time, right? And so this is why there's going to be a difference between who you are and what your position is. And so in an effort to go ahead and make this more universal, so that way it's not just cookie cutter, it's something that is specific to each and every single person's situation, that is where there's going to be options, okay? And so that's exactly what we're going to go ahead and walk you through right now, which are the two main options, so that way you can know how to go ahead and get your professional email set up depending on your own trajectory, okay? So let me explain to you both of these options right now. Option number 1 is for you to go ahead and get a professional business email address on your own domain name, okay? So that's going to be, for example, like support or help or team at, let's say, for example, in this case, nutrifitwellness.com, right? So what you're seeing here is that this email address, right? Whenever you see like a professional, you're calling, a big company or something, or emailing a big company, they have their email on their own domain, okay? So that is option number 1, which is at yourowndomain.com. And then option number 2 is going to be to go ahead and actually use an at gmail.com. Now this is going to be different because the domain is just going to be at gmail.com. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have over here, it's going to be like NutriFit Wellness, Body Forge, support, team NutriFit Wellness at gmail.com, whatever. Okay. So what you're going to see is that there is a very big difference between these two options. Now let me go ahead and explain a little bit more here. Okay. So in this first option over here, in this option, you're signing up for a proper business email address that is on your domain name, and you have a completely separate what is known as a Google Workspace account, okay? Now, Google Workspace is what is used in order to go ahead and set up this domain name, okay? Now, don't worry, you don't have to know about it. We're going to walk you through it step by step, but I'm just kind of planting those seeds right now, okay? So what that's going to do is that when you have your at domainname.com, it's going to have everything located in that for your business. And so this option over here means that you have a business email and a business account from the start, okay? Now, the pros of this is that you have all of it set up right now from the beginning, so that way you don't have to worry about it in the future. But the cons of this is that it does actually have a cost. And this cost is going to be, for a Google Workspace account, in order to host all of those for your domain name, it's going to be $6 per month. Now, this $6 per month is different than your, $12 per year domain name cost, right? Now, it might not be $12 per year depending on the domain registrar. It might be like, $10 per year. I think the recommendation that we've made is to use Cloudflare. I think Cloudflare is like $10 a year or something like that, right? That's different. That's your domain registration, okay? What we're talking about over here is hosting your business email. So there's going to be a cost to that, right? And the starter plan for Google Workspace starts at $6 per month. And that does also mean that there is a little bit more of an initial setup here for option number 1, okay? Then option number 2, which we've already gone ahead and said, is going to be the at gmail.com. And what you're doing here is normally at gmail.com email addresses, they're used for personal communication, right? They're typically not used for business communication. However, if you are just starting out right now, okay, and you're like, you know what, I don't want to have to pay the $6 per month, and you're kind of just taking your time, and you're okay with having an at gmail.com in the start, right? So you can start with this option. You can just make a new at gmail.com, right? Now, we're not talking about using your personal email address, right? So let's say, for example, your name is John Doe, you have johndoe at gmail.com. No. We're not talking about that. We're talking about creating a whole new at gmail.com email address for usage of business. Okay, now the pros of this is that it is free. It is literally super simple to set up because you just go ahead and create a new Gmail account, super easy to do. But the cons is that later on, when we talk about sending business emails in an upcoming training down the road, okay, when we talk about that, there is going to be some additional setup there, right? So over here, there's additional setup in the beginning, and then in option 2, there's additional setup later on, right? So they kind of cancel each other out, but the only difference is that this one is going to be, option 2 is going to be free, and then option 1 is going to have that cost associated with it. Now, after hearing that, a student might ask, is like, hey, okay, well, one option is free. Why would anyone actually pay? Now, let me explain to you why somebody would actually pay for the Google Workspace for the option number 1, right? Because what's going to happen is that in a later training, we're going to go ahead and help you set up something called email deliverability. Okay, now that's a fancy way to say, do your emails get delivered into the inbox of the person that you are sending them to, or do they actually land in spam, right? So obviously, you know, in your email address, only a certain number of emails make it to your priority tab, and then there's some filtration that's going on for that to be filtered into either spam or promotions or something like that, right? So when you send an email to somebody who's using an @Gmail and @Yahoo and @Hotmail, right? Like, let's say you're going to email a client, you're going to email a lead, you're going to email a prospect. What happens is that Google, Yahoo, Hotmail, these are the email providers that we've explained in a earlier training section. What they're doing is they're determining, hey, should this land in the inbox or should this land in spam? And so there are rules that Google and Yahoo and Hotmail know to say, hey, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys, right? And so yes, option number 2 is going to be easier right now, and it is going to be free for you right now. But what's going to happen is that, like I said, in an additional training in the future, what's going to happen is we're going to walk you through a little bit, not a lot, but additional setup. So that way you can actually set up something called email routing and forwarding. So that way you can kind of fake it as if you have an @domain.com. Why? Because the email providers do not actually like it when somebody sends out business emails from an @gmail.com. And so even though option number 2 is an @gmail.com, what we're going to have to walk you through is we're going to have to walk you through how to set up this setup called email routing and forwarding later on. And so that's the reason why a lot of people are like, you know what? I might just pay the $6 per month extra. So that way I can go ahead and just have peace of mind that it's going to be set up from the get-go. But again, it just depends on your situation. If you're going to have money coming in, if you're going to be able to work with clients immediately, then you can justify the cost. But if you're like, you know what, I don't see myself, I'm just learning right now, I don't see myself getting paying clients or, you know, a lot of paying clients or maybe high paying clients for a while, then in that case, you might just decide to continue with option number 2 and just go with the @gmail.com. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why we are even offering the @gmail.com option. Even though later on there is going to be more setup, right? The reason why we're actually offering the free option is because our philosophy when starting out in business is that we want to make sure that you stay as lean as possible and while still being practical, right? So we call this wisdom thinking. It's not binary black or white thinking. It's not, hey, do I overspend for no reason? Or is it, hey, do I got to nickel and dime everything? It's about the nuance. It's about the detail. It's about the balance between understanding the context, understanding the situation, understanding, hey, where are you at in this journey? It's not about, hey, yes, make sure you overspend and buy everything. No, it's not about, hey, yes, let me make sure I nickel and dime everything. No, it's about understanding where to actually spend the money. Where is it going to be more bang for your buck? Where is the return on investment going to be, right? And so that's exactly why Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Amazon, when he was starting out, he knew that spending money on a sign or a desk or something like that was going to be pointless, right? And so he knew that it wasn't going to be actually offer any real world value. This is a picture of his original desk. You see, he has a sign that's kind of just, you know, spray painted on there, and he has his desk that is made out of a door, right? And so he knew that, hey, I'm not going to be black and white thinking. It's not about, hey, do I spend the money and spend money on everything, right? Because I'm going to need everything. And it's not, hey, do I nickel and dime everything and not spend money on anything? It's a matter of understanding, hey, what is going to be valuable based off of your situation? And that's exactly what we're empowering you to learn how to do, because business is a game of thinking, and you have to be able to understand the context, and you have to be able to know, hey, what is going to be applicable for me in my situation? This is not about being a remote control, blindly following, being spoon-fed. You got to be able to understand what is your situation, what's going to be the best situation for you. So in an upcoming training, we are going to be walking you through, hey, what are the foundational softwares that you are going to need in order to start and grow your business, right? We talk about having a website builder and hosting, Linktree, invoicing software, client agreement, business phone calling, text messaging, calendar software, email marketing, automation, review software, sales funnel, CRM software, right? That's just a starter business software. Now, here's the thing. don't get scared by this entire, $465 per month. That's the reason why we're going to go ahead and make this literally seamless and easy for you. So that way it is actually cost efficient. Because remember, what is our philosophy? I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up here so you can go ahead and see this, is that our philosophy is that when starting out in business, you want to try and stay as lean as possible while still being practical, right? And so we're going to walk you through so that way it doesn't cost you $400 per month plus, right? But the key here is that you want to understand, hey, this is not about overspending for no reason where you're spending $400 plus per month every single month. And this is not about nickel and diming. You're like, hey, I need a website, but I don't want to spend money. I need this and I don't want to spend money. I need that and I don't want to spend money. No, you don't want to do that either. And so the goal of this entire training is to open your eyes to that from the very beginning as we're setting up the business foundations for your business is, hey, guess what? You're going to have to sit here and actually think about this. Is like, hey, we're putting the decision in your hands to decide, is the $6 per month worth it for you right now? Or is that just going to be overspending for no reason, right? Or are you maybe in here where it's like, you know what, it is worth for me to spend it because I have a justifiable reason? Or are you saying, hey, you know what, I do have a justifiable reason, but I'm going to nickel and dime and I'm going to purposefully not spend the money, right? So you got to think about where you're at and think through these options, or whether or not you're okay with a little bit of extra setup later on, because we went ahead and talked about that as well. So we're just fully educating you right now that if you decided to go with the $6 atdomain.com setup, then that way you will not have to do that setup later on because you have a little bit more setup right now. But keep in mind that $6 per month is not going to be your only business expense, okay? So in upcoming trainings, we're going to walk you through some of the foundational softwares that you're going to need in order to get your business started and growing. But we're just going ahead and making you fully aware of what is upcoming. Okay, cool. So with that being said, let's go ahead and just decide, hey, which option do you want to take? It's going to depend on your own situation. We're just equipping you with the understanding of, hey, cool, this is going to be $6 per month, requires a little bit of extra setup right now, but I got it, I'm good to go. Versus option number 2 is going to be free, very, very easy to go ahead and set up right now, but there's going to be more setup later on. So again, completely up to you to decide which option you want to go with. I'm going to go ahead and say this one last time in case anybody wasn't listening. If you are okay with tacking on a $6 a month subscription right now, knowing that you will also probably have an additional $50 to $150 per month of other business expenses in the future, if you are okay with that, then you can go ahead and go with the @domainname.com option. But if you'd rather go with the free option for now, knowing that you'll probably have to do a little bit of extra work with email forwarding in the upcoming training section, then you can go with the @gmail.com option. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? I'm just making it crystal clear in case anybody had any further questions about that. Okay, so now what is going to happen next? In the next immediate training sections, what we are now going to go ahead and do is we're going to walk you through the actual setup process for each of these two options. Okay, so right after this training section, there's going to be an option number 1 training section is going to walk you through how to do that. And then there's going to be an option number 2 training section that's going to walk you through that. Now, you do not go through both. Let me make this clear. You only go through the option that you are going to pick. So let's say, for example, right now you decide I'm going to go ahead and proceed with option number 1. You therefore only then go through the option number 1 training section, right? If you decide you're going to go through option number 2, you only go through the option number 2 training section. Okay, now let me go ahead and remind you here, okay? What happens is that we have training sections. And so what's happening is that this right now is the initial training section of the business email training, okay? So right now, you're in this training section. Right after this is going to be another training section that's going to walk you through either option 1 or option 2, depending on what it is that you're going to be following. So just make sure that you only go through the training section that matches the decision that you have made inside of this training section around whether you're going to do option 1 or option 2. You do not do both of them. I hope that is crystal clear, okay? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we walked you through option 1 and option 2, some of the things that you got to think through, as well as understanding wisdom thinking, so that way you're not just thinking in black and white binary around, hey, I'm not going to spend money or I am going to spend money. You got to figure out where you fall in that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the skill of the business owners, being able to think through and problem solve and not just be spoon-fed and just have a cookie cutter remote control approach. You're going to learn throughout this entire program how to think, and that is the goal of this. We're going ahead and planting those seeds as we go along. So right after this, go ahead and proceed with either option 1 or option 2, depending on which one's going to be better for you, and go ahead and execute on the tactical action steps for that so you can get your professional business email address set up. With that being said, we will catch you in that next training section.